Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back to a time when every whisper behind a veil, every sideways glance in a crowded village square, and every flutter of fabric in the shadows could mean the difference between life and death, especially if you were a woman with a secret swelling beneath your bodice. The year is 1327. You're walking along a muddy path in the middle of a rural village, wind cutting through your cloak. And you're pregnant. Outside of marriage. Which is unfortunately about the worst thing you could be right now. No husband, no protection, no priestly blessing. Just your body, your guilt, or so they say, and the looming threat of what comes next. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hear the church bell long before you see the steeple. It clangs dully through the damp air, muffled by mist and soot, as if even sound knows better than to draw too much attention here. You pull your woolen cloak tighter over your belly. No one knows yet, not exactly. The swelling is still easy to pass off as winter bulk, and your chores keep your head down, arms moving. But your heart races with every scrape of a wooden door and every eye that lingers a second too long. You weren't foolish, or at least not more than any other village girl. He was a traveler, a merchant's son passing through for the fair. He brought fabrics dyed the color of flame, promises thicker than honey, and hands that knew how to charm before they ever touched. There was no wedding, no priest, no coin exchanged between fathers. Just a moment behind the haystack, his breath warm against your cheek, and your body responding like it had been waiting years to feel that alive. Now, of course, that feeling has curdled into something colder. You try not to think about the consequences too much. It hurts your chest to breathe when you do. You know stories. Everyone does. There's Marin from the next hamlet over who was taken to the woods and never seen again. They say she lost her senses, climbed a tree, naked, muttering prayers to Saint Margaret before throwing herself into the river. Or perhaps it was the townsfolk who did the throwing. Nobody says it outright, but the silences are thick and telling. Even if you aren't cast out, you will be marked. A woman with a bastard child is like a ruined field, tainted, unworthy, suspicious. You can never marry properly after that. No man wants another's seed. And without a husband, you are no longer a person. You're a cautionary tale. You arrive at the baker's stall and manage a smile even as your stomach roils, not from morning sickness, not this time, but from dread. Old Maud eyes you from beneath her fraying cap. She narrows her eyes just slightly, lips pursed. Her gaze drops to your middle. You know it's too early to see, but women like Maud have a sixth sense for scandal. She leans in closer than she needs to. "You've been pale lately," she says, voice low. "Not eating, neither. You ailing." You shake your head and muster a cough. "Just a chill." She says, but you can already feel the shift in the air. Suspicion is a weed, it spreads without sun, without water. Just a whisper will do. By midday, the sun has burned through the fog, revealing a sky that seems too bright for how you feel. You press your hand against your belly and walk faster. There's still time, you tell yourself. Maybe if you say nothing, maybe if you keep your head down and work harder, they'll never know until it's too late to do anything about it. But you also know this is a fantasy. The midwife will find out the moment you swell past your apron. The priest will be told in hushed tones, and then the questions will come. They won't be kind. Even if by some miracle they don't cast you out, there are other punishments. Public penance for one. You've seen it before. The girl with her skirts torn and her hair shorn, kneeling outside the church, while children threw spoiled turnips at her. She wept and no one stopped them. She was made to walk barefoot through the town square, with a sign around her neck that read harlot. No one remembers her name anymore, just the title she earned. There's a part of you that wants to run. Just take the coin you've saved and vanish. Head for a city where people don't know you, where you might pass as a widow or a servant girl fallen on hard luck. But travel is dangerous. Roads are thick with thieves and worse, and alone, pregnant, and unarmed. You'd last a week if that. Instead, you go to the church. The interior is cool and dim, the air thick with incense and the distant murmur of a prayer being read aloud. You sit at the back, head bowed. You've always believed well, you've tried to. But faith doesn't offer much protection for girls in your position. Sin is something that can be absolved, yes, but not without confession. And confession means truth, and truth means exposure. Still, you whisper a plea, not for forgiveness, not yet, but for mercy. Just enough to make it through the next few weeks without being discovered. Just enough time to figure out what to do. A footstep behind you makes your blood run cold. You stiffen fingers clenched around the edge of the pew. Is it true the voice is young, curious, innocent, but sharp? You turn and see Beatrice, the miller's daughter. She couldn't be more than 12, but her eyes are already full of the cruelty of someone who's learned how powerful knowledge can be. Is what true, you whisper, that you've got a babe in you? Your mouth opens, then shuts again. There's no point in denying. The rumor is loose now. You see it in her smirk, the way she glances toward the front of the church, as if expecting someone to overhear. You don't answer. You just stand and walk past her heart, thudding in your throat. Outside, the air bites harder. You hear the priest's voice behind you, calling out to someone else. You keep walking. By evening, the village feels colder. Not in temperature, but in temperament. No one looks you in the eye. Your name is no longer spoken, only murmured. The baby kicks for the first time that night. You press your hand to your stomach and stare at the low rafters of your cottage ceiling. You should be happy, maybe, but the warmth of that tiny movement is swallowed by the growing fear in your chest. Tomorrow, they'll start asking questions out loud, and you don't have any answers they'll want to hear. The morning mist clings to the ground, like a secret low and thick, as if the earth itself wants to keep your shame hidden for just a little longer. But you know it won't last. Secrets in a village like this are as fragile as frost in the sun. One step too loud, one glance too slow, and the truth begins to thaw in everyone's mouths. You wake early before the cock crows, before anyone has reason to come knocking. The baby's movement was gentle last night, but it made your mind race. You didn't sleep much, just enough to feel the ache of exhaustion behind your eyes. Still, you rise, splash your face with cold water, and wrap your shawl tighter, as if you could squeeze away the truth with fabric and silence. There's work to do always. Your hands need to keep moving, because if they stop, your thoughts start. So you take the basket and head toward the stream, pretending this is a normal morning. That you're just another village girl fetching water for the stew that no one will really enjoy, but everyone will eat because it's warm and fills the stomach. At the stream, the air is clearer, but the silence is louder. You hear someone behind you before you see them. It's Thomas the tanner's boy. Broad shoulders, crooked smile, fingers, always stained from the dye vats. He's kind, or used to be. Maybe he still is. But when he steps beside you, you feel the shift in his demeanor, as if he's come not to speak, but to confirm. He doesn't say your name. He just looks at you the way people look at animals they're unsure how to treat. Do you feed it, or do you put it down? I heard things, he says, voice low. You don't respond. Your fingers tremble around the pail's handle. You should have been more careful, he adds, not cruelly, just factually, like a man commenting on the weather or the cost of wool. He walks away without waiting for a response. You crouch by the water, dipping the pail beneath the surface, watching the ripples distort your reflection. You almost don't recognize the girl in the stream. She looks older than you feel, worn, fragile. But you can't cry here. Someone might see, and tears won't wash away what's growing inside you. Back in the village, the stairs begin to take shape. No one says anything directly. Not yet. But there's a chill in every greeting, a pause in every conversation as you approach. Bread that used to be offered freely now costs a few extra coppers. People aren't cruel, not outwardly, but they're withdrawing, and that's worse. You're being erased. At midday, the church bell rings again, calling the faithful to confession. You don't go, not today. You've made yourself invisible as long as you could. Walking into that confessional means stepping into the light. It means admission. It means surrender. So you go to the field instead. The one at the edge of the woods where the nettles grow thick and the trees cast long shadows. You sit beneath the oldest oak, the one children say is haunted, though you've never found it frightening. It's quiet here. Still. You take out a scrap of linen you've been saving. It was supposed to be for mending your apron. Instead, you fold it carefully, tracing the edges with your finger. You imagine wrapping a baby in it. You picture tiny hands clutching the frayed hem. It's foolish, you know. The child may not even survive the winter. Half of them don't. And if they do, what life could you give them? There are options, of course. None of them good. Some women sneak away to distant parishes and beg the midwives to take the child after birth. Others leave them at convent doors, praying the sisters will take pity. A few even abandon them in the woods, hoping for a miracle, or forgetting entirely what a forest really does to a crying infant. But all of those require travel secrecy, luck, and time. You don't have much of any of those. As the sun begins to dip, you hear footsteps approaching. You tense, then relax slightly when you see it's Agnes, the miller's wife. Not quite old, not quite young. She's known sorrow, her face bears its softness. She doesn't speak at first, just sits beside you on the grass and exhales. Her presence is warm, not invasive. I knew before you did, she says, finally. You blink at her, unsure what to say. The way you held your side last week. The way you winced when you bent to pick up that sack of flour. She pauses, then adds, I've had 6, only 3 lived. You learn the signs. You open your mouth to apologize, though you're not sure for what. She waves you off gently. You don't have to tell me who. I don't care about that. What matters now is what you plan to do. That's the question, isn't it? You swallow hard. I don't know. Agnes looks ahead into the woods. Her voice is soft but steady. If you try to hide it, they'll come for you when it's too late to protect yourself. If you confess, they might offer mercy, or they might not. You stare at the folded cloth in your hands. I'm afraid. You should be, she says, not unkindly. But fear isn't a plan. She reaches into her pocket and hands you a scrap of parchment. It's stained and creased. A name and a town are written in cramped letters. She's a midwife, knows how to keep things quiet. If you decide to go, but it's a day's journey and the road's not safe after dark. You hold the paper like it's made of fire. This changes things. It gives you a path. Risky, yes, but a path. Agnes squeezes your arm. Think carefully, but don't think too long. That night you don't eat. You barely move. The moon casts a pale glow through the slats in your roof, and the wind whispers through the thatch. You lie awake, one hand on your belly, the other clutching the note. The village is silent, but your mind is loud, running, planning, fearing. You picture the woman in the other town, the journey, the danger, the pain. You picture staying here, confessing, kneeling on the church steps with blood on your skirts and penance on your tongue. Both futures feel equally terrible. You wonder if your child will ever know joy, if they'll live long enough to laugh, if they'll grow up with your shame or with someone else's name, or if they'll never draw breath at all. And you be here next winter. That's when the thought comes. Quiet at first, then louder. You don't have to wait for them to make the decision for you. You could leave tomorrow, before they find more reasons to hate you, before the priest says your name from the pulpit, before you're no longer allowed to choose at all. You rise in the stillness before dawn, heart pounding so hard it shakes your ribs. It's not courage that pulls you from bed, it's desperation. You move like a shadow, careful not to creak the boards beneath your feet. The world is still sleeping. The chickens aren't clucking yet. No hearths are lit. No gossip has begun to swirl through the village streets. For a moment, it almost feels like you've stolen time itself. But it's borrowed at best, and the lender is cruel. You dress simply no more than you need. A plain cloak, worn boots, a kerchief for your hair. You take the linen cloth you'd folded yesterday and wrap it carefully around the little bit of dried meat and coarse bread left from the night before. The parchment Agnes gave you is tucked into your bodice. You run your hand over it once, feeling the crinkled edge against your skin like a promise or a threat. Then you slip out. The path eastward takes you through the frost-bitten fields. You walk quickly, head down, praying that no one sees you. A rooster crows in the distance just as you cross the boundary, marked by 3 old stones at the edge of town. Behind them lies everything you've ever known. The tiny cottage you swept each morning, the fields you tilled the church, whose bell taught you when to pray, when to kneel, when to beg. Ahead lies the forest. You hesitate. This part of the woods is older, darker. The trees seem to lean toward each other, their limbs whispering secrets above your head. It's not the woods themselves that frighten you. It's what they might hide. Thieves, yes. Wolves, maybe. But the worst thing, men with nothing to lose and no one to stop them. Still, you step forward. The forest path is narrow and twisted. Roots snag at your ankles. Brambles claw at your cloak. You keep going. Your belly tightens as you move, not from hunger this time, but from the strange weight inside it. Not just the child, something else. The growing awareness that you have chosen exile. That you've become the kind of story people will whisper about when the wind howls. Remember the girl who left before confession she was already showing? I heard she ran off with a band of outlaws. No, she died in the river. Shameful that. You wonder which version they'll tell of you. By mid-morning you stop to rest. There's a mossy log beside a creek, and you sit unwrapping your bread. It's stale but edible. You force yourself to eat slowly. The baby stirs. You place a hand on your stomach, suddenly conscious of how exposed you really are. There's no one here to help if something goes wrong. No midwife, no healer. Just trees and silence. And yet you feel something you haven't felt in days' freedom. Not safety, not hope, but the space to make your own decision. For the first time since that night behind the haystack, this part of your life belongs to you. It doesn't last long. As you rise to continue, you hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps, not your own, not animal either. Boots, heavy, crunching leaves behind you. You freeze. Slowly turn. 2 men. Travelers, or maybe just wanderers. They look like they've been sleeping rough, their clothes dusty and faces half-shadowed by hoods. One carries a walking staff, the other a knife tucked visibly into his belt. They see you. You straighten your back and pretend you're not afraid, even though your blood has gone cold. Bit far from the village, aren't you? One of them says, voice too smooth like honey left out too long. I'm going to see family, you lie. He eyes your belly barely rounded beneath your cloak. Whole lot of trouble to bring to your kin. The other man chuckles but doesn't speak. You glance past them. The path narrows. You can't outrun them. You don't even try. Instead, you square your shoulders. I've got nothing worth taking. The man with the staff raises his hands, mock surrender. Didn't say we wanted anything. You wait, heart thudding like a war drum. Finally, he steps aside. Safe travels, then. You nod once, curt, and walk past them. You don't look back. Not until you're certain you've put a mile between you. Only then do your knees buckle and you sit by the roadside trembling. You knew the road would be dangerous. You just didn't expect it to feel so real so quickly. You could have been robbed, or worse. The baby shifts again, as if reminding you that this isn't just your life you're gambling with. But what choice do you have? You press on. By afternoon, the path leads to a fork. You pause and pull out the parchment. The name scribbled there, Marilda of Brent Hollow. A midwife. Quiet. Discreet. Agnes swore by her. You've heard of Brent Hollow, a hamlet tucked between 2 ridges often overlooked by traders, a place where secrets grow as thick as nettles. People don't go there unless they must. You take the left fork. The sun is lower now. Your legs ache. Your feet are blistered. Every step feels harder than the one before. But the thought of turning back is worse. There's nothing left for you in the village. Nothing but shame and punishment. As dusk settles, you see a plume of smoke curling above the trees. A fire. A sign of life. Brent Hollow. The hamlet is smaller than yours. Just a handful of cottages scattered near a crumbling stone chapel. No one greets you as you enter. Curtains twitch. Doors close. You are a stranger, and strangers mean trouble. You walk toward the chapel looking for anyone to ask for directions. A voice calls out, "You're looking for Marilda." You turn to see a woman with graying hair and a sharp gaze standing on the threshold of a low cottage. Her apron is stained. Her hands are flour-dusted. You nod slowly. She gestures. Come on, then. She doesn't like to be kept waiting. You follow her down a narrow path lined with herbs and hanging gourds. The cottage at the end is dark, its roof sagging. Smoke curls lazily from the chimney. The woman knocks once, then leaves without another word. A moment later, the door opens. She's older than you expected. Thin, wiry, with eyes like chipped glass. She looks you over, says nothing, then steps aside. You enter. Inside smells of sage and vinegar. Jars line the shelves, dried roots, bones, bundles of hair. The air is thick. You feel like you've stepped out of the world and into a place where time doesn't work the same. You're carrying, Marilda says. It's not a question. You nod. And you want to hide it. End it. You hesitate. Then say, I don't know. She nods once as if that answer is familiar. She gestures to a stool. Sit. Let's see how far along you are. You obey. Her hands are cold, clinical. She pokes and prods gently, listening to your body like it's telling her a secret in a language only she knows. Not far, she says. There's still time. Not much. But some. You finally speak. Can you help me? Marilda meets your gaze. Her voice is quiet but firm. I can. But nothing I offer comes without cost. Not coin, real cost. You don't ask what she means. You already know. Everything you do now has a price, and you've barely begun paying. You sleep on a straw mat in the corner of Marilda's hut that night, or at least you try to. Sleep flits in and out, never truly settling. Every creak of wood, every rustle from the rafters overhead stirs your eyes open again. You hear an owl outside hooting low and long. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howl into the darkness. The wind sighs through the cracks in the shutters. But it isn't the noises of the night that keep you from rest. It's the weight of choice. Marilda gave you tea before bed. It tasted bitter with the hint of something floral underneath, and made your limbs feel slightly heavy. It'll ease your body, she said, and slow your fear. But your mind is still racing. You lie on your side, one hand on your belly. The baby is quiet. You wonder if it's listening, if it somehow knows you're making decisions that might erase its future. That knowledge burns behind your ribs. You remember your mother's face, stern, tired-lined from years of labor and childbirth. She died before you were old enough to ask her anything that mattered. What would she say now? Would she call you foolish, or would she take your hand quietly, pack your satchel, and tell you to run just as you did? There's no way to know. You are your own mother now. You are your own guide, and the path ahead is steep. When the sky lightens and roosters call from somewhere behind the village, you rise. Marilda is already awake, grinding something in a mortar. The scent is pungent onions and some kind of root. She doesn't look up when you step into the room. "You didn't sleep," she says. "No." She nods as if this is the answer everyone gives. "You have 3 choices," she says, voice low, steady. "But you already know that. 1, I can end it. The herbs I have can stop what's inside you before it takes hold. 2, I can help you hide it. We keep you here through the winter, away from eyes until the babe comes. Then we decide if it stays or goes. 3, you walk back into the world and take whatever comes. You look at your hands. They tremble slightly. Have many chosen the first you ask? More than you'd think. Fewer than you'd hope. You stare at the jars on her shelves. Some are filled with dried petals. Others with things you don't recognize. Bones. Powders. A jar of thick, dark liquid that looks like old blood. You think of the weight in your belly, small but growing. You think of the sound you heard behind the haystack, his breath, your laughter. A moment that felt like warmth and became ruin. I can't, you say. Can't what end it? Marilda nods again. No surprise in her expression. Then you'll need to stay, she says. 3 months, maybe 4. The child will come before spring. If no one sees you, no one can judge you. And when it's born, you don't let her finish. When it's born what you ask. She tilts her head. That's up to you. If it's healthy, someone might take it. A convent, maybe. A woman who's barren. But I won't promise anything. And if you want to keep it, well, you'll have to disappear for good. You blink slowly. The thought of handing your child to a stranger feels like a hollowing out of your insides. But so does the idea of staying here forever, hiding like a criminal, like something shameful. You sit at her rough-hewn table. The wood is stained and warped from years of use. What do you need from me, you ask? Marilda wipes her hands on her apron and finally looks you in the eye. Obedience, she says, and silence. That day passes in a blur of tasks. You're not here as a guest, you're here as a bargain. You chop firewood, grind roots, sweep out ashes. Marilda teaches you what each herb is, what it does, how it smells when burned or boiled or crushed. You are not her apprentice, but you might as well be. She watches closely. You sense that if you misstep, she'll turn you out without a second thought. At noon, she hands you a thick paste of clay and ash. For your face, she says. If anyone comes, they must think you're ill. Not pregnant, sickly, unfit. That's safer. You smear the paste across your cheeks and forehead. It cools your skin. You don't recognize yourself in the mirror afterward. Good. You're not supposed to. Later, you gather wild greens in the woods. You find yourself humming under your breath some old lullaby you don't remember learning. And then it hits you. This is the first time in weeks your body hasn't felt like a cage. Out here in the trees, with dirt under your nails, and no eyes watching, you feel something strange and forgotten. You feel human. At dusk, a man arrives. You see him through the shutter first, tall, thin, his cloak patched, but well kept. His beard is neat. His eyes, when he steps inside, are not unkind. You freeze, every muscle locked. But Marilda nods at you. "This is Samuel," she says. "He brings the tinctures I can't make myself." He nods once at you, says nothing about your condition. His eyes linger just long enough to acknowledge your existence and then shift to Marilda. You're thankful. She barters with him for nearly an hour. You pretend not to listen, but you catch words like rue, mugwort, silverleaf. They speak of time and cost and potency, as if brewing up the future. When he leaves, he hands you a wrapped bundle of dried herbs. "For sleep," he says simply. "Thank you," you reply, voice small. That night, you sleep a little better. The tea helps, but so does the routine, the feeling that your body, though still marked by sin, in the world's eyes, has found a place that doesn't condemn it. You dream of a baby's cry echoing through the forest. You wake heart hammering only to find the cottage quiet. Just the wind again, and Marilda's soft snore from the other room. You breathe. The next morning, Marilda hands you a basin and says, "Wash." You frown. "Why?" "There's a woman coming, one who might take the child." The words hit like cold water, "But I haven't decided," you say. I know. But she has, and she deserves to see who she's trusting. You nod, slowly, dread curling in your stomach. By midday, the woman arrives. She is young, barely older than you, and wears a fine cloak embroidered at the hem. Her hands are smooth. Her eyes flick quickly around the room, assessing. She does not look at your belly first. She looks at your face. Then she speaks. "I can't carry one of my own," she says, voice even. "But I have a house, a husband, a hearth. If you give the child, I'll raise it well. I'll never speak of you again unless you ask me to." She pauses. "If not, then I wish you safety." The room is silent. Your mouth is dry. You haven't answered yet, but you've never felt closer to a decision. You say nothing at first. The woman with the embroidered cloak waits, her hands folded neatly, her face a mask of composure. But you see something flicker beneath that polished exterior, hope maybe, or fear. A need buried so deep it aches like your own. You glance at Marilda, who leans against the table, arms crossed, offering no help. This is your decision. She will not guide you, and the other woman will not plead. You are not a victim here. You are a gatekeeper, and the life inside you is the gate. The silence stretches. You speak at last. "I can't promise anything yet." The woman inclines her head respectfully. "I understand." She doesn't ask to touch your belly. She doesn't offer false comfort. She simply reaches into her cloak and produces a small pouch. Inside, you find 3 silver coins and a folded piece of parchment with a name and a crest pressed in wax. "If you change your mind," she says, "this will bring the child to me safely." Then she leaves. You hold the pouch long after she's gone. The silver is heavier than it looks, warm from her hand. You feel its weight settle not in your palm but in your chest. It represents a life that could be better, safer, warmer than anything you could offer. But it also represents separation. A goodbye before a hello. That evening, you and Marilda don't speak of her. You prepare root stew in silence, chop wild onions, stir the pot with a wooden spoon worn soft at the handle. The flames crackle beneath the pot. Outside, the wind picks up, whispering along the cracks in the wall like a warning. You eat, barely tasting the food. When night falls, you lie awake again, one hand on your belly, the other clutching the folded parchment. You think of the house the woman described, of warm fires, feather beds, lullabies sung in key instead of whispers, of a child with clean linens and a future that doesn't begin with shame. And then you think of the child's face. You haven't seen it, of course, but you imagine. Would it have your eyes, your crooked little smile, the same dimple in the chin your mother once said skipped a generation? Could you really hand it off like bread at market? Could you kiss a forehead and turn away? You don't know, but you must decide soon. The days pass. You settle into a rhythm at Marilda's cottage. Each morning begins with a walk to gather herbs, followed by chores and preparation of salves and poultices. She teaches you what little she chooses to share, how to dry chamomile properly, how to grind valerian root without souring it. You listen. You learn. It keeps your mind from spinning too fast. Your belly grows. So do the questions. Each kick is sharper now, more defined. Some nights the baby presses against your ribs so firmly it feels like they're asking to be let out early. You wonder what they dream of in there. Do they hear your voice? Do they feel your anxiety like thunder from a storm? One morning, you catch Marilda watching you too long. You pause mid-sweep. What? She doesn't blink. You talk to it now. You feel your cheeks flush. I didn't notice. It matters. You're connecting. You nod slowly. Then after a pause, what does that mean for the choice? Marilda shrugs. Nothing, everything. Depends on the woman. That afternoon you go into the woods, alone. You follow a deer path that winds past a stream, then up a ridge where you can see the roofs of Brent Hollow below. It's quiet here. Safer. Sacred, almost. You find a smooth stone to sit on and press your hands to your belly. You speak, not loud, but clear. I don't know what you'll become. I don't even know if I'll see you grow. But I know you didn't ask for this. None of this was your fault. A bird flutters past, startled from a low branch. You continue. I'm trying to make the right choice, not just for me, but for you. The baby kicks, not a flutter this time, it's strong, reassuring, like a nod. You close your eyes. You could keep them. You could hide here until birth, raise the child under another name, maybe convince some village miles away that you were a widow, a traveling seamstress, someone benign and boring. You could start again. But that means Marilda's help and her silence. It means travel with a newborn. It means years of looking over your shoulder, always wondering when the truth will find you. Still, maybe. The next day, Samuel returns. He doesn't ask questions, just trades tinctures for nettle balm and nods at you in passing. But after Marilda goes inside to sort supplies, Samuel lingers by the gate. He looks at you long and steady. You're brave, he says, or desperate. Maybe both. You laugh quietly. They look the same most days. He smiles faintly. My sister was like you. Got caught. Ran. Gave birth in a hayloft. Died of fever 2 days later. Your smile fades. He continues, you've got a chance she never had. Don't waste it being proud. You want to ask him what she would have done if she had help, if she'd made it. But the words stick in your throat. Later that evening, Marilda gives you a task. You need to dig. You blink. Dig, what a hole. About this wide, this deep. She marks it with her hand's small round. For what you ask, but you already know. She doesn't answer. It's not a grave. Not exactly. It's a precaution. You dig it behind the cottage. In silence. The soil is soft from recent rain, dark and rich. As your hands scoop through it, your mind spins. Is this for the placenta, the afterbirth, or is this where the child goes if they're not born breathing? You don't ask. Because in the Middle Ages, even that possibility must be prepared for. Mortality isn't a tragedy. It's a certainty. And unwed mothers don't get mourning rites. Only silence. When the sun sets, you fill the hole back in lightly. You tell yourself it's just a practical step, that Marilda's being careful, not cruel. You try not to cry. That night, Marilda places a small cloth bundle beside your mat. Clothes, she says, for the babe. Just in case. You unfold them slowly. A bonnet, a shirt, a scrap of wool for swaddling. You press them to your face. They smell like lavender and wood smoke. You curl around them and sleep. And when you dream, this time the child is in your arms. You're not running. You're just holding them. And they're smiling. The weather turns colder. Each morning the frost clings longer to the edges of the cottage windows, and the breath you exhale into the morning air curls like smoke before vanishing into nothing. Brent Hollow settles deeper into winter, and so do you. Marilda says nothing about the days passing, but she watches your belly closely now, like she's measuring time through the slope of your body. You begin to feel it too. The weight, the pull, the fact that your center of gravity has shifted. Your steps have changed. Slower, wiser. Every movement is deliberate now, as if your body has finally accepted its condition in full. There is no hiding anymore, not even if you tried. Sometimes you catch your reflection in the small piece of polished metal Marilda uses as a mirror. You don't recognize yourself. The girl who ran from her village weeks ago is gone. This new version of you, she's quieter, heavier, not just in body, but in spirit. And yet there is something solid in her, something stronger. The choice looms closer each day, like a candle burning at both ends. The woman who visited hasn't returned, but you see her in your mind, constantly standing with her soft hands and careful voice offering a life for your child you could never promise. But now there's another image too. You with the child, someplace far from judgment, a modest life, maybe weaving, maybe herbs, maybe just surviving, but surviving together. You don't say any of this to Marilda. She doesn't ask, and you don't volunteer. But one afternoon, as you're sorting dried mint, she speaks without looking up. Names matter, she says. You blink, what? Lifts a sprig, sniffs it, sets it down. When the child comes, it'll need a name, whether you keep it or not. People need names. You sit with that for a while. You haven't dared think of one. Naming makes it real. Naming makes it hurt. But that night, lying on your straw mat, you whisper a few options into the dark. Nothing grand, just simple names, one syllable. Names you remember from your mother's stories. Names that aren't borrowed from saints or kings. Names that sound like belonging. You don't choose one, but you try each aloud, rolling them across your tongue as if the child can hear and pick for themselves. The next morning, Marilda surprises you. "Today we go to the woods," she says. You frown. "Why needles?" she replies. "And pine pitch, the kind that seals wounds." So you follow her. The forest is slick with frost, but sunlight trickles between the branches. Your breath huffs in clouds as you step carefully, avoiding roots and patches of ice. Marilda moves like she's part of the landscape, barely bending a twig as she walks. You're slower, more cautious, but you keep pace. As you walk, she begins to talk softly at first, like she's speaking to the trees as much as to you. "I was 16, she says when it happened to me. You stop walking." She doesn't. "Came from the next village over. A boy I thought I'd marry. We weren't careful. And then one day my belly told me the truth. You hurry to catch up, unsure whether to speak." "I didn't run," she says. "Didn't have anywhere to go. The priest told my father. My father told my brothers. And my brothers, well, one held me down. The other fetched the midwife. Her voice doesn't shake. It's too old for trembling now. They made her end it. With herbs. Ones that burned from the inside. I bled for 3 days. Nearly died." You stare at her. "I'm sorry." She shrugs. "Don't be. I lived. The child didn't. But I did." She stops walking at a patch of pine, begins scraping pitch from a wounded trunk. "That's when I started learning. Herbs, roots, what hurts and what heals." You watch her for a moment, then kneel carefully and begin gathering needles. "You never tried again?" you ask. She pauses. No one wanted a used girl, especially not one who knew too much about plants. There's bitterness there, but not self-pity. Just the clarity of someone who stared down truth and kept walking. You don't speak again until you're back at the cottage. The work of sealing jars with pitch occupies the rest of the day. By evening, your hands smell like pine and your fingernails are blackened. But something inside you feels changed. Marilda's story doesn't comfort you exactly, but it makes you feel less alone. That night you dream of your village, of the church bell, of Thomas the tanner's boy sitting at the edge of the stream where you last saw him. In the dream, he sees your belly and weeps not from shame but sorrow. When you wake, your eyes are wet. The pain of leaving hasn't disappeared. It's just dulled like a scar that fades into the skin. In the following days, snow begins to fall. Not heavily, just enough to cover the roof of the cottage in a soft dusting. The world feels muffled, like someone has pressed a blanket over everything. You wrap yourself in wool and help Marilda shovel a path. The labor is hard on your back. You sit often now, short of breath, your body clearly nearing its limit. Marilda watches. "It's coming," she says. "Not today, but soon." You nod, you feel it too. The quiet before the storm. That evening you write a letter. Not for sending, just for yourself. You write to the baby. You tell them who you are. How you met their father. How you never expected this. You tell them you tried to do the right thing. that you don't know what that is yet. You don't sign the letter. Instead, you fold it, wrap it in the linen scrap from your old apron, and place it under your mat, just in case. If you don't survive the birth, maybe Marilda will find it. Maybe your child will know someday that you loved them, even if you couldn't say it out loud. The next morning, your water breaks. It begins with a slow warmth between your legs. Not pain, not even discomfort. Just wet. Startling in its quietness, in how gently your body announces what it's preparing to do. You freeze where you stand halfway between the hearth and the chopping block. Knife still in your hand, breath suddenly shallow. Marilda doesn't look up from the herbs she's grinding. It's time, isn't it? You nod, unsure if your voice will work yet. You feel the dampness trickling down your thighs, your skirts already darkening. Not from fear, from biology, nature. That terrifying, indifferent tide that women through every century have had to face without question, without reprieve. Marilda moves swiftly. The room transforms. The cot is stripped and recovered with clean linens. Herbs are set to steep. A basin of water begins to warm over the fire. The air smells of chamomile and bloodroot. Somewhere in the corner, a cloth is laid out with tools you don't recognize and don't want to. You're ushered to the bed. Your legs are shaky. You lie down. The pain hasn't started yet. You still have time to be afraid. Marilda sits at your side, wiping your brow with a damp cloth. She doesn't speak in comfort. She speaks in facts. This will hurt, she says. It will be long. And there may come a moment when you think you're dying. Your mouth opens. She silences you with a look. You won't die unless you panic, unless you stop listening. You nod. Hours pass. The first contraction is like a cramp. Familiar. Manageable. You breathe through it. The second is worse, deeper, sharp, like a knife drawn across the inside of your pelvis. You grip the edge of the mattress. You gasp. You look at Marilda. She simply nods. Again. There is no timetable, no hourglass to mark your progress. Just waves, each stronger, each closer. You lose sense of how many have passed. You vomit into a basin. You cry. You scream, though you try not to. The cottage ceiling becomes your entire world. The rafters blur. You claw at the mattress at Marilda's arm. You want to leave your own body. You want to push yourself out of yourself and run into the forest and disappear. But you can't. There's no running anymore. You're in it now. Eventually, your thighs begin to shake. You feel the pressure low in your back. You feel like the bones in your hips are separating. You wail not from the pain, but from the helplessness. Push, Marilda says. You scream again. You do what she says. The fire crackles. Somewhere outside, snow falls against the window. And in here you are caught between two worlds, death and life, terror and miracle. Again, Marilda says, you push, and something shifts. You feel it. The baby is coming. Time disintegrates. There are no more thoughts, no more choices. Just instinct. Just pain and breath and heat and blood. You're not a girl anymore. You're something else, a creature of raw will. And then a cry, high and shrill. You don't even feel the baby leave your body. You only hear it. It's real. It's here. It's breathing. You sob harder than you've ever sobbed. Not from pain now, but from sheer unbelievable relief. Marilda wraps the child in linen. She moves with the precision of someone who's done this 100 times, but there's something gentle in her movements now. It's a girl, she says. You reach out, arms trembling. She places the child in your arms. She is small, damp. Her eyes are shut, her skin red and wrinkled and streaked with birth. But she is beautiful, the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. She quiets the moment you hold her. Her warmth against your chest is more than comfort. It's anchoring. It pulls you back from the edge. You're not alone anymore. You kiss her forehead. Her smell is new and ancient and perfect. You whisper a name, one of the ones you tried on in the dark. It fits. Marilda watches you. For the first time since you arrived, she smiles. She's strong, she says, like her mother. You want to believe that. You lie back, still clutching your daughter. Your legs are numb. Your body feels like it's been hollowed out and filled with fire. But you're alive. You made it. The birth is over. But your decision is not. Marilda begins to clean. She says nothing about the blood-soaked linens, the mess on the floor, the afterbirth that lies in a basin by the hearth. She hums as she works. You lie there floating in and out of consciousness, listening to your daughter's small, wet breaths. You think of the woman in the embroidered cloak, of the letter beneath your mat, of the grave-like hole you dug and then filled. You have what you came here to decide, but can you follow through? Morning comes, pale and quiet. The fire has burned low. Your arms are stiff from holding the child all night, but you don't let go. Her fingers curl around your thumb, impossibly tiny. You watch her eyelids flutter in her sleep. You wonder what she'll dream of. You wonder if she'll ever know what it took to bring her here. Marilda approaches and kneels beside the bed. You need to tell me, she says. I know. You take a breath, look down at the child, then look up at her, and say, I'm keeping her. The words spill out before doubt can intercept them. You don't whisper them. You don't ask them like a question. You say them aloud with your cracked lips and trembling body and tear-streaked face. And it's the first time in weeks, maybe months, you feel like you're not lying to yourself. Marilda says nothing for a long moment, just nods slowly like she knew all along that this was the path you'd take. She stands, stokes the fire, and pours tea without comment. Her silence feels like approval, or at the very least, understanding. You look down at your daughter still sleeping in the crook of your arm, mouth slightly open, tiny nose rising and falling in rhythm with yours. The enormity of the choice sits in your chest like a stone, but for once it's a weight that steadies you. She'll need papers, Marilda says after a time. A name not tied to yours. A story. Something people believe. You nod. She's mine, but no one needs to know how. Marilda brings over the letter you wrote, the one wrapped in your apron cloth, kept under your mat for weeks. You had nearly forgotten it. She places it gently beside your bed. Keep it, she says, for when she asks. The thought punches something deep in your gut. Someday, this child will speak, will ask, will want to know why her mother flinches when someone mentions marriage. why she doesn't go near churches, why she wakes up some nights crying silently into her palms. But she will also grow, laugh, walk, learn to braid her hair and hum when she stirs the pot. Maybe she'll have your stubbornness, your quietness, or maybe she'll be loud, full of fire and mischief. You picture her running through a meadow wild and barefoot and alive. You sip the tea Marilda hands you, grimacing at the bitterness. She chuckles. It's meant to bring your strength back, not please your tongue. Your body still aches in 100 places. Your thighs tremble when you shift. The bleeding hasn't stopped, but you feel more present than you have in months. Later that day, Marilda returns with a strip of cloth, coarse, grayish, not fine, but clean. Swaddle her in this when you travel. Looks poor, safer that way. Nobody bothers the poor. You pause. Travel, Marilda levels her gaze at you. You can't stay here. People have eyes, tongues. They'll come. You already knew that. But hearing it aloud makes your throat tighten. You said you'd help. I did. I am. I'll get you as far as the river road. After that, it's yours. You nod. And where should I go? There's a woman I know south of the hills. 2 days' journey. Name's Anya. She's a weaver. Keeps to herself. If you offer help and don't ask questions, she might let you stay. Might Marilda gives a humorless smile. Trust is earned, especially for women like us. That night you sit by the hearth with your daughter tucked inside your cloak. The fire pops gently, casting long shadows across the walls. You murmur to her softly, telling her everything you remember about your mother. About the day you first felt her kick. About how scared you were, and how that fear didn't win. The next morning, Marilda wraps bread-dried meat and a flask of weak ale in cloth and hands it to you. She adjusts your daughter's sling, carefully muttering under her breath like a spell. She ties a scarf over your hair and smudges a bit of soot on your cheeks. Widow, she says, left your village after your husband died of fever, looking for work. Don't tell anyone where you came from. You nod. She hesitates, then presses something into your hand. A silver coin. You blink at it. I can't take this. You will, she says. You've got a child now. Coins keep children alive. You don't argue. When it's time to leave, the cottage feels smaller, familiar. It's no longer a place of exile. It's a place of transformation. You entered as a fugitive. You leave as a mother. The walk is slow. Every step jars your body. You're not healed, not even close. But your child is warm against your chest, tucked in tightly. She makes small noises as you walk, not cries, just soft bird-like chirps that keep you anchored. The road is mostly empty. The snow has melted to slush, and puddles glisten under patches of weak sunlight. Marilda leads you as far as the ridge. She doesn't hug you. She doesn't cry. She simply says, "Live." You nod. Thank you. You don't owe me thanks, she says. You owe the girl in your arms the best future you can scrape together. Then she turns and disappears down the path. You stand there for a long moment, alone again. But not truly. You begin walking. The river road is treacherous in places. Mud sucks at your boots. The cold bites at your face. You pass a few carts along the way, but no one pays you much mind. You look like any other poor woman clinging to survival. The weight of your daughter is constant. You adjust her sling often. Each movement is a small pain, a reminder that your body is still mending. But the pain is purposeful. As dusk falls, you reach a wooded clearing. You stop, gather sticks, and make a small fire with the flint Marilda packed in secret beneath the bread. You eat in silence. Feed your child. Wrap her close and whisper another name, the one you've chosen for the road, one that means nothing to anyone, but everything to you. You fall asleep curled around her. When you wake, dawn has broken, and for a few seconds you forget everything. And then your child stirs, and you remember who you are now, who you have become, and who you must be if either of you are to survive what comes next. You reach Anya's cottage by the second evening. It's perched at the edge of a hill, low-roofed and moss-covered, the kind of place that seems like it sprouted from the earth rather than being built by hands. Thin smoke curls from the chimney, and bundles of wool hang from a wooden rack, drying in the cold breeze. You hesitate, baby, pressed tight against your chest, breath clouding in front of you. What do you say? What do you offer? You've been a stranger so many times now, it's starting to feel like your name. You knock. A long silence follows. Then the door creaks open and you see her. Anya is older than you by maybe a dozen years. Her eyes are sharp, her shoulders square. She doesn't smile. She looks at your face, then at the bundle in your sling, and she steps aside. You enter without speaking. The inside of the cottage is warm, filled with the scent of sheep's wool and wood smoke. Piles of woven fabric in various stages of completion line the walls. In the corner sits a loom half-dressed with thread. A fire crackles in the hearth. It smells like boiled nettles and onions. She gestures to a stool. You sit. She says nothing for a long time. Then Marilda sent you. You nod. She said you might let me stay. I'll work. I'll do whatever you ask. Anya studies you. She said you'd just given birth. You pull the sling aside slightly. Your daughter blinks up, eyes wide and glassy, like she's still trying to decide whether the world is something worth looking at. Anya says nothing. Finally, she asks, name. You freeze. For a split second, you wonder if she means yours or the baby's. You give her the name Marilda told you to use. The widow's name. Anya nods slowly. And the girl. You hesitate, then say the name you whispered in the forest. The one that has felt more and more right with each passing mile. She nods again, then finally says, You'll sweep in the mornings, boil water, wash cloth. I can't carry bundles to the traders anymore. My back's gone bad. I'll do it, you say quickly. Whatever you need. You'll need to be invisible, she adds. No one here needs your story, just your labor. You agree without hesitation. That night she gives you a cot near the hearth and a thin blanket that smells faintly of sheep. You feed your daughter, wrap her in the coarse cloth Marilda had given, and hold her until she sleeps. Then you lie down and stare at the rafters overhead. You're not home. You don't know if this is safety or just another pause between dangers. But for tonight, no one is threatening you. No one is asking questions. You exist. You breathe. That is enough. The next morning, you begin your work. Anya teaches without kindness, but also without cruelty. She shows you how to sort wool by softness, how to tie bundles that won't come undone in transport, how to tell if thread will hold or snap under tension. Her hands are blunt and cracked from years of labor, and when she speaks, it's in short, clipped commands. You don't mind. Your body aches, especially in your lower back and legs, but it's a good kind of ache. You're moving again. Living. Building something. At night, you care for your daughter. You hum old songs from the village you've left behind. You braid your own hair to pass the time. You press your nose to her scalp and inhale the scent of milk and warmth and something that is purely hers. Weeks pass. The snow thickens. You go to the village nearby only once to barter thread for food. You keep your eyes low, your answers shorter. No one looks too closely. You're just another poor woman trying to stretch a loaf through winter. You hear gossip about the neighboring villages, a girl who went missing, a midwife who closed her doors, a priest who preached fire and hell from the pulpit just last Sunday. But no one says your name, not the real one. You walk back through the snow with your daughter strapped to your chest, cheeks red from the cold. She coos at the wind and clutches at your hair. Back at the cottage, Anya watches you quietly. She doesn't praise, but she also doesn't scold. Then one night, as you rock your daughter by the fire, Anya speaks without preamble. I had one once. You look up. She's sitting at the loom fingers, busy with yarn eyes fixed ahead. A child, she says. You wait. Boy. Born quiet. Died quieter. She says it like it's something that happened to someone else. I kept his shawl, she adds. Still sleep with it some nights. Foolish, I know. It's not you, say. She doesn't answer, just pulls the shuttle through the loom and tightens the thread. After that, she speaks more often, not warmly, but freely. She tells you of the husband she lost in a fire, of the 3 winters she spent bartering wool for dried roots and chewing leather when the food ran out, of the wolves that came too close one year, of how she cut one down with a hatchet while her neighbor watched in awe. Anya is not hard. She is worn, and so are you. You begin to understand each other in silence. One evening she places a bundle of cloth beside your cot. Inside a baby blanket woven new, soft wool dyed pale blue. You cry when you touch it. She doesn't mention it again. Your daughter grows stronger. She smiles now. Not just in sleep, real smiles, gummy and wide, full of something pure. She follows light with her eyes. She clutches your fingers with growing strength. She gurgles when you sing. She is becoming someone. You feel a strange guilt in your chest because this life, this fragile sliver of safety, came at the cost of your old one. And some days you miss it. You miss the sound of the church bell, even if it condemned you. You miss the taste of your village's stew, even if it came from a pot filled with silence. But then your daughter sneezes and laughs, startled by her own noise, and the ache eases. You're not the same girl anymore. You've been broken, remade, redefined. And though your story may never be told, though your name may never be cleared, though the priest may still shout your sin from a pulpit, somewhere you know this: you chose love over fear, and it has kept you alive. Spring comes slowly to the hills. It announces itself in patches, soft moss on the shaded side of the stones, tiny green buds curling along branches, the whisper of running water beneath the ice. You hear the change before you see it: birdsong in the mornings, lighter steps in the snow, a breeze that no longer slices but brushes. and with the thaw, your world shifts again. Your daughter, now a few months old, begins to lift her head when she hears your voice. Her fingers, once curled tight like fists, now reach toward light and movement. Her cries are no longer frail, they carry strength, demand presence. She is becoming someone, not just an extension of your fear or your secret, but a small, insistent soul with her own place in the world. And with every day that passes, it becomes harder to imagine ever letting her go. Anya says nothing of the past, but you know she's watching. Her silences are no longer cold, they're measured. She sees how your daughter follows the movement of the shuttle as Anya weaves. She sees how you hum when you fold the dried linens, how you carry the child while tending the fire like it's the most natural thing in the world. One evening she places a warm cup of nettle broth beside you and says, "You'll have to call her something more official soon. If someone asks." You nod. "I've been thinking." "Don't wait too long," she adds. "People get suspicious of nameless babies." You look down at your daughter now wrapped in the wool blanket Anya made. Her eyelids flutter in sleep, and her tiny mouth moves as if she's dreaming of milk. "I've settled on one," you say softly. Anya doesn't ask what it is. She doesn't have to. The next day, she sends you to the village again, this time alone. "Take the child if you must," she says, "but keep her close and quiet. Say little, and don't linger." You bundle your daughter against your chest and wrap the sling with an extra shawl. The village is an hour's walk downhill past muddy trails and startled deer through the stretch of trees that smell like new earth. You pass no one. At the edge of the village, you pause. You feel like a ghost walking among the living. People bustle around market stalls, traders laying out bolts of cloth, women bartering for eggs, boys chasing chickens between barrels. No one looks twice at you. You're invisible here, just another widow. You move through the crowd, purchase salt and barley with the coin Anya gave you, accept a handful of bruised apples from a bored vendor. No one asks your name. No one calls out accusations. You feel like crying. But then you hear it. A voice, low male, too familiar. You freeze. You turn your head slowly, heart in your throat. It's not him, not the merchant's son, just a man with a similar gait, a similar pitch. But your body doesn't know the difference. Your stomach flips, your vision narrows. You retreat from the stall and hurry back the way you came, clutching your daughter so tightly she fusses. You whisper apologies into her bonnet as you flee. By the time you reach the forest trail again, your breathing is ragged. You collapse beneath a birch, pressing your back to its pale bark, trying to still the shaking. It doesn't matter that it wasn't him. It could have been. And you realize you're not safe. Not truly. No place is. You don't tell Anya what happened when you return. You just quietly sort the items, tuck your daughter into her cot, and scrub the table harder than necessary. That night, Anya surprises you again. "There's another option," she says, voice low. You glance up. She's seated at the hearth, twisting a skein of wool in her lap. "I know a man, in the next valley over. A shepherd, older, widowed twice. He keeps to himself, but he's not cruel." You blink. What are you saying if you're set on keeping her? "He might marry you." You stare. Marriage. A word that once meant ruin now stands like a door you didn't know was open. "You'd live rough," she continues. "No luxuries. But he'd keep you safe. And her." Your throat tightens. You think I should marry him. I think you should have choices, Anya says. And too many women don't. You sit in silence. Marriage. A man you've never met. A name on a distant hillside. But also a roof, a father for your daughter. A future that isn't always running. Still, you hesitate. You said he's older, 40, maybe more, but strong and kind. You laugh once quietly. Kind men are rare. They are, she agrees. But they're not myths. You take a deep breath. I need time. Anya shrugs. Take it. Over the next week, you think of nothing else. You watch your daughter sleep, imagining what her life might be like on a shepherd's hill, wool skirts and goat's milk songs over the fields, safety within the fences. And you imagine yourself beside her, not hidden, not whispered about, not feared or pitied, just living. Could you become that woman? Could you rebuild yourself again? You return to the birch tree on the hill the next day. Sit for hours. Listen to the birds. Watch the clouds drag across the sky. You speak aloud to no one. You say, I want her to laugh. I want her to be warm. I want her to never feel what I felt behind that church. And then I could be a wife again. I could try. You return to the cottage with your answer, forming not fixed, but sprouting. But before you can speak it aloud, you find Anya at the door, expression grim. There was a rider today, she says, from the south, asking questions. Your heart stops. About what? About a girl, she says. Young. Ran off. Left a village under suspicion. You say nothing. He didn't ask names, Anya continues. But he'll be back. Looking again. Next time he might bring others. You swallow hard. You think it's for me. I think it doesn't matter, she replies. The questions are too close. You lift your daughter from the cot, hold her tight against your chest. Her warmth is immediate, reassuring, but it does nothing to stop the new chill that slips down your spine. Do I run, you ask? Anya looks at you for a long moment. Then she says, not yet. But the unspoken truth sits between you both. You might not get a second warning. That night you don't sleep. You lie with your daughter curled against your chest, her tiny hand resting on your collarbone, her breaths warm and even. But your eyes remain wide open, fixed on the rafters above, counting every creak of the wind, every soft moan of shifting wood. You listen for hoofbeats, for knocks, for voices raised in accusation. None come. But fear is no longer a passing guest. It has moved in beside you. At first light, you rise. You don't need to be told. You can feel it in your bones the way your mother once said animals sense storms before they break. You pack your few belongings quickly. The extra cloths for the baby. The tiny wooden spoon Anya carved. The coin Marilda gave you. And the parchment with the baby's name, the real one, written in your own shaky hand. You don't want to leave. But staying now would be foolish. Dangerous, selfish. Anya doesn't try to stop you. She watches you fasten the sling and feed the child one last time beside her hearth. You'll need a new story, she says. You nod. I'll be a widow again. No, she says. Too many widows. Too easy to doubt. Be a sister now. Raising your niece after your brother died. You blink, that's better. It's harder to argue with family than marriage, she says. You realize she's right. There's a kind of sacredness to family that people won't probe as easily. No one wants to poke around grief. She hands you a roll of cloth-wrapped bundles of dried meat, 2 hard rolls, a wedge of sharp cheese, then a length of coarse brown wool. For your cloak. It'll hide you better. You take it. You say thank you. Again and again. You try not to cry. As you sling your daughter across your chest, you look once more at Anya. You saved us. She snorts. I gave you a room and silence. You did the rest. Then she adds more softly. May your child grow up never needing the kind of help you did. You step out into the morning. The trail is cold, the air thick with dew. The forest smells like pine and damp earth. Your daughter sleeps as you walk. She doesn't know that once again you've become a shadow, a ghost passing through the world untethered. But this time you feel different. You're not fleeing the same way. Now you're moving with purpose. You head west away from the hills and valleys you've known for the past months. Toward the coast, perhaps. Toward a new region where your name carries no meaning, where no one remembers the girl who left a village in disgrace. By midday, you reach a stream. You pause to drink and rest. You bathe your daughter's face with a wet cloth. She babbles, her voice a melody that makes the trees feel less ominous. You smile. I'll find us a new place, you tell her. No more hiding. Just something honest. You don't know what that will look like, but you believe it now, in a way you didn't before. The road is difficult. You sleep under trees, sometimes in barns, when a sympathetic farmer offers space in exchange for sweeping. You trade labor for bread. You learn quickly how to read people's moods, who will listen, who will threaten, who will offer a crust with kindness. And your daughter continues to grow. She begins to laugh. That sound, small, sudden, full of light, makes every blister, every aching step, every sleepless night worth it. You carry her always. She no longer just fills your arms, she fills your life. Her smile becomes your compass, her warmth your anchor. In one village you find a healer willing to let you sleep in her shed for a week. You mend her fences, collect herbs, and help with the goats. She doesn't ask about your past. She doesn't care. You're good with your hands, she says. I had to learn. You could stay, she offers one evening casually, like it costs her nothing to say. You think about it, truly. But that night, your daughter cries. Not from hunger, not from pain, from the wind howling through the cracks in the shed. You hold her tight and realize this is not where you build a life. It's another step, a temporary kindness, not a foundation. So you move on. Weeks pass. Your hair grows longer. Your body becomes stronger. Your back still aches from time to time, but the pain is manageable. You know how to soothe it, with rest, with herbs, with silence. You learn to lie without flinching. Your brother died of fever. You took in his child because no one else would. You move from village to village, staying just long enough to leave behind help, not suspicion. Your daughter learns to sit up, then to crawl. She clings to your skirt and squeals when she finds your ankle, laughs when you scoop her into the air. And with each milestone, your guilt lessens. Because you've given her something no priest or gossip or nobleman ever could: freedom. One morning you wake in a loft above a baker's shop, a small place you've rented with the coin you saved by mending clothes and grinding grain. You open the shutters. Light pours in golden and soft. Your daughter is asleep, curled beneath a faded wool blanket. Her mouth moves as if she's dreaming of something warm and sweet. You watch her for a long time, and then you sit, and you begin to write. Not a confession, not an apology, but a record of what happened, of what they did, of what you survived. Not because anyone else will read it, but because someday she will. Someday she will ask. And when she does, you'll hand her the pages, and you'll say, "This is where you came from." Not shame, not sin, but strength. Spring ripens into early summer, and with it your daughter blossoms. She walks now, well, stumbles really. But each step is a triumph, a rebellion against the past you both escaped. Her legs are wobbly, and her arms flail for balance. But her smile is fierce, like she already knows that life is meant to be wrestled with, not received. You call to her from the threshold of the room you now rent above a tailor's shop, and she waddles toward you, arms outstretched, giggling. You catch her, lift her high, and kiss her soft cheeks. She squeals. Her world is small but bright, and yours, though still circled by caution, has begun to bloom in its own quiet way. The tailor downstairs is a widow named Bruna. Heavy-set, clever-eyed hands, always busy. She took you in after watching you barter thread for bread in the market square, noting the precision with which you tied your bundles, the neat stitches in the hem of your shawl. "You've got hands that know work," she said. "I need someone who sews as well as they carry a child." You'd nodded, offered no story. She didn't ask. She gave you a cot in the room above her shop and a corner near the fire to keep your child warm. You work long days now, mending hems, darning socks, finishing seams, while your daughter sleeps in a basket lined with wool and dried lavender. There's peace in the repetition. You find comfort in the thread, in the slow rhythm of the needle, in the way fabric gives and resists. It feels like proof that not everything in life tears permanently. Some things mend. Still, you remain careful. You don't linger in the square. You avoid churches even when bells call. You answer no questions you haven't asked yourself first. But you're not hiding exactly, not anymore. You're choosing what to reveal. And that is a kind of power. One evening, as you're folding garments with Bruna, she speaks. "You're not from here." You pause, a shirt half folded in your lap. "No. Doesn't matter. Just means you've seen more than the rest of us." You glance at her. She meets your gaze. "I was 14 when I married," she says, voice low. "Widowed by 16. Everyone said I should thank God. My husband was cruel, but I didn't thank God. I just thanked myself for surviving. You don't know what to say, so you say nothing." She doesn't seem to need a response. "Men write the rules," she says, "but women do the remembering." Later that night, you turn her words over in your head. Women do the remembering. You begin writing again. Pages tucked into the bottom of a basket, hidden beneath fabric scraps. You write not only what happened to you, but what you've learned. How silence is sometimes safety. How truth is a kind of blade. How shame only lives where it's fed. You begin to imagine your daughter older, reading these words, not as a confession, but as a torch. You picture her standing in a world that's shifted, however slightly, because you survived yours. You picture her laughing loudly in a street without turning her face. That night, as she sleeps, curled beside you, you whisper the first full sentence you've said about yourself in a long time. I was a girl who got caught. And then, but I was also a woman who kept going. You close your eyes. The air is warm. The window open. Somewhere outside, someone plays a lute. The notes drift through the town like fireflies, soft wandering, full of sorrow and joy in equal measure. Weeks pass. Your daughter begins to talk. Small words, garbled, but her favorite is clear mama. She says it like a bell, bright constant. Sometimes she wakes in the night crying, and you hush her with songs your own mother sang. You can't remember the lyrics anymore, just the sounds, but it's enough. Her body relaxes. Her breathing slows. You stroke her hair and think, this is what was worth it. All of it. The blood, the fear, the lies, the walking, the digging, the staying, the leaving. All for this child's breath against your skin. One market day, a traveling priest arrives. You spot him from the window. He wears robes with gold thread, rides a white mule, speaks to crowds about fire and repentance. People gather. Some cry. Others kneel. You keep your head down, sewing faster. Later, Bruna enters with her basket of lace and sighs. Same sermon as always, she mutters. Women must repent. Girls must obey. Men must lead. You glance up. What did he say? That God sees everything, especially secrets. You feel a chill, but Bruna smirks. He's not wrong, she says. But so does every woman who's ever carried a secret on her back. You feel your breath catch. You smile. A few nights later, you sit by the hearth with your daughter curled in your lap. Her eyes flutter with sleep. Your hand strokes her back. I'm not sorry you were born, you whisper. And then louder, so even your own doubts can hear, I'm not sorry. You think of the girl you once were, frightened, bleeding, alone on the edge of a forest, listening for the sound of boots on the trail. She couldn't have imagined this moment. But you remember her. You honor her. You are her. But you're more than her now. And your daughter is more than your past. She is your future. And she's just beginning to walk. Summer deepens, and the village exhales into its warmest season. The streets grow louder, the markets busier, and the days stretch out like spooled yarn beneath a golden sky. Children run barefoot in the dust. Vendors call out prices with sun-reddened faces. Bruna's shop bustles with new orders, bridesmaid dresses for autumn weddings, christening robes, funeral veils. Life in the village rolls forward, ever circular, ever expectant. You are part of that rhythm now. No longer an outsider, though you still keep yourself tucked into the edges. Your daughter toddles beside you each morning to the shop, clinging to your skirt when strangers come near, but otherwise fearless, in the way only small children can be. Her hair has grown into wisps of honey-colored curls. Her eyes, so wide and dark, take in everything. You sometimes wonder if she remembers the road, the silence, the hunger. But she seems untouched, untarnished. You take it as a blessing. Bruna's trust has grown with each passing month. You now keep her accounts, manage appointments, and even deal with the cloth merchants when she's away. She has taken to calling you her right hand, and though she doesn't speak of the past, you feel the weight of her loyalty settle over you like armor. In this village, in this shop, you are not judged by who you once were, but by what you do each day, and still you remain vigilant. You do not go to the church. You do not leave your daughter unattended. When travelers come through town, you keep your distance. You listen to the way people speak, what rumors they pass, what gossip lingers. But your name is never among them, until one afternoon. You're hanging linens behind the shop when you hear it, a name from your past, a familiar name, the village you left, spoken by a pair of men standing by the well, said she ran off, didn't even take her things, just vanished. Maybe she died in the woods, would have served her right. You freeze, you don't turn, you don't move, but the air leaves your lungs. They don't mention you directly, but it's enough. That village is too far from here for its name to appear casually. Someone's still looking, or someone's still talking. You step inside, hand trembling slightly as you pour water into a basin. Your daughter runs to you, clinging to your leg, her laugh like a song. You kneel to pick her up, pressing your cheek to her forehead, and whisper, "We're fine. We're fine." That night, you don't sleep. You pack a small bag just in case. The coins, the letter, the name you wrote down so long ago, the blanket she was swaddled in the day she was born, all the pieces of a life you may yet have to flee from. But no knock comes, no search, no rider. The village continues without noticing your fear. You breathe, you stay, but something shifts inside you. The safety you felt begins to feel thinner, like cloth worn too many times. You watch your daughter play and think, how many places can we rebuild from? How many new names can I give us before she begins to ask? That week you take her to the river for the first time. It's shallow this time of year, warm and sluggish, running over stones worn smooth. You walk barefoot along the edge while she splashes, chasing minnows and squealing each time they dart past. You watch her for a long time, and then you do something you haven't done in over a year. You speak your real name aloud, just once, just for yourself. You say it softly, carefully, as if the name might break. Your daughter doesn't notice. She's too busy lifting a wet stick like it's a sword, but you feel the syllables echo in your chest. It doesn't bring shame. It brings grounding. You existed before the fear, before the hiding, and you still exist now. Later that night, as your daughter sleeps, you sit beneath the window with the letter again. The one you wrote in Marilda's cottage, inked with your shaking hand, sealed with no intention of being opened. You unfold it, you read it, and then you write a new one, stronger, truer, less afraid. This one tells the whole story, not as something to be hidden, but as something to be passed on. You include names, places, feelings. You describe the haystack, the priest's silence, the fear in Marilda's eyes, the kindness of a woman who carved a blanket out of wool and time, the way your child's breath brought you back from the edge of despair. You end the letter with a simple line, "You were never my mistake. You were my decision." You sign your real name, fold the letter, and this time you don't hide it. You place it in a box beside her swaddling cloth. You tuck it under the cot, not with shame but with certainty. She will find it someday. When she's ready. When you're ready. Because love, when earned through fire, doesn't disappear. It becomes legend. It becomes memory. It becomes legacy. Autumn arrives slowly, painting the village in gold and copper, and you find yourself both grateful and wary of the turning season. Leaves fall like whispered reminders. Everything changes, even what we thought was permanent. The heat fades from the stones beneath your feet. The wind carries the scent of hearth smoke, baking bread, and something else, something cooler, sharper, like endings. You've lived here nearly a year now, longer than you ever stayed anywhere since fleeing your village. And though the days still carry the weight of secrecy, they also hum with routine. You no longer flinch when a customer knocks. You don't glance over your shoulder at every voice. You smile more. You laugh more. Your daughter speaks in full sentences, now short and tangled, but unmistakably hers. She calls the tailor's shop our house and the alley behind it our garden. She believes this is home. And maybe it is. One morning as you sweep the shop floor, Bruna speaks from the doorway, arms crossed, gaze distant. You ever think of staying for good? You pause. I thought I had. She nods once. Then don't let fear undo what you've built. You look at her. You think I'm still afraid. I think you're brave enough to admit it. You return to sweeping. The silence between you feels less like a wound and more like acknowledgement. Later that week, the harvest fair begins. Banners are hung across the square, stalls bloom with woven cloth, dried gourds, strings of apples. Music fills the air, fiddles and tambourines. Children run wild with sugar-sticky fingers. Your daughter dances in circles until she topples over laughing. You sit on a bench with a warm roll in your lap, the sun on your shoulders, and for a moment, you don't feel like a fugitive. You feel like a woman who has weathered something and emerged fuller, not broken. You hear a voice nearby, male, casual, came up from the southern road, past a village that just buried its priest. Another responds. They say he died of grief, couldn't catch the girl who ran. They laugh. Your blood goes cold, but you keep your face still. Your daughter tugs your sleeve and begs for a fig tart. You smile, stand, and lead her to the pastry stall, even as your heart pounds in your ears. He's gone. That man, that place, that version of your story. You remind yourself you are here now. He has no claim to this life. Still that night you recheck the box beneath the cot. The letter remains, so does the blanket, the coin, the name scratched on parchment. You run your fingers over the edges, not because you plan to leave, but because you know what it cost you to stay. A week later, the mayor's wife enters the shop. She's tall, perfumed with rings that click against the counter as she lays down a bundle of expensive fabric. I need something special, she says. My niece is with child. No husband. You go still. She doesn't notice. Her parents are sending her to the convent, of course. Such a shame. But at least she'll be off the streets. You nod politely. What would you like sewn? She gestures vaguely. A gown, modest, for the journey. You lift the fabric, soft, pale blue, the same color as the wool blanket your daughter sleeps beneath. I'll make it simple, you say, but strong. She nods and leaves. When she's gone, you sit behind the counter holding the cloth in your lap. You think of that girl, nameless, faceless, being sent away for the same shame you carried. You think of the silence she's walking into, the walls she'll meet. You can't stop it. But you can send her something. So you stitch the gown. Inside the hem you embroider 3 tiny words, almost invisible just for her: you are worthy. You don't sign it, but you fold it gently, carefully, and you send it out into the world like a prayer. Because you know now survival isn't just for yourself. It's for every girl who follows. Every girl who bleeds and hides and flees and returns. You're not running anymore. You're planting seeds. And your daughter, she's watching, learning. Someday she will ask questions, and you'll be ready to answer every one. The final frost of the year comes early. You wake to find the windows laced in thin white patterns like spider silk, your breath visible in the air. You draw your daughter close, burying her tiny hands inside your shawl, and feel how warm she has become. Not just in body, but in spirit. She radiates life now, bigger than you almost. Her words come faster, clearer. Her questions sharper. Why don't we go to church like the others? Why don't I have a papa? You don't answer at first. You stroke her hair. You murmur something about timing, about God's love being everywhere. But you know the moment is coming. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Someday you will hand her that letter. Not because it's time, but because she'll say the words that make it so. You find yourself preparing for it already, practicing how you'll say things aloud, how you'll explain love and sin and survival to a child who sees the world as safe and good. You pray that by the time she asks, she'll still believe you can be trusted to carry her pain the way you carried her body, firmly, gently, without flinching. One morning you take her walking beyond the village. She chatters beside you, hopping from stone to stone, waving at birds like they're old friends. You reach a hillside where the wildflowers have started to grow again, early blooms in defiance of the lingering chill. You sit on a rock while she gathers dandelions. You think of Marilda, of Anya, of the women who handed you pieces of their strength when you were too weak to hold yourself up. You think of the girl behind the haystack, the girl at the church, the one at the stream, the one in the forest. All of them still inside you, none of them buried, none of them forgotten. Your daughter returns with a crown of weeds and sets it gently on your head. You're a queen, she declares. You smile. Am I? She nods, serious. You're the queen of keeping me safe. Your throat tightens. You don't cry. Instead, you lift her into your lap, hold her against you, and whisper, "Then you're my little knight, my bravest protector." She beams. In that moment, you understand something you hadn't until now. You didn't just save her. She saved you. She gave you a reason to keep going when shame would have drowned you. She turned your exile into a new beginning. She made you into someone worthy of love, not because of purity or perfection, but because of persistence. You rise and walk back toward the village, your hands entwined. That night you watch her sleep and realize you're no longer waiting to be discovered. You're no longer afraid of the knock at the door. Because even if the past comes, even if someone speaks your name, you are ready to speak it too. Not as a mark of disgrace, but as a badge of endurance. You sit at the edge of the cot, Pull out the box one final time. You unfold the letter. You read every word. Then you add one last line at the bottom: I never stopped loving you, not even for a second. You place it back inside. Not for her. For you. A record that you chose love again and again, even when the world gave you every reason to hide. You tuck the blanket tight around your daughter, and as the fire dims and the stars blink overhead, you whisper the truest thing you've ever known. You are not the end of my story. You are the beginning of my freedom. And you sleep not as a fugitive, not as a sinner, not as a ruined girl, but as a mother, a maker of peace, a woman who survived. You made it. You crossed the centuries, the dirt paths, the rumors and rules, and somehow you're still here, breathing, whole. And I know this journey was heavy. The fear, the silence, the choices no one should ever have to make. Maybe it left your heart a little fuller, or maybe it cracked something open. Either way, if you're still listening, you're braver than most. Because history isn't just names and dates, it's stories like this one's that live in the gaps, in the silences, in the shadows people weren't supposed to survive. You traveled as a girl whose worst mistake was trusting in love, and as a mother who rewrote her fate with each footstep away from judgment. And now, as you settle deeper into your pillow, let that journey soften. Let the weight of her choices drift from your shoulders. Let her fears be buried in the quiet hum of your fasan, and let the child's laughter echo faintly as your thoughts grow slower, lighter. This wasn't just her story. In some small way, it's yours too. We all carry secret chapters. So take one last deep breath. Sink into the safety of now. The danger is gone. The path is clear, and the dawn can wait. You did enough. You are enough. Good night.